Hi, this is Abul Hussain coming to you direct from London, the United Kingdom, and welcome to another episode of the SMMA Mastermind podcast, where we talk about how you could start or scale your digital marketing agency. Now, if you have never seen an episode before, well, make sure to find our group on Facebook or go to smmamastermind.com, especially if you are looking to start or scale your agency to six figures with the least amount of head banging and to be guided from the experience and expertise of a like-minded community. Now, enough of that. I have a very special guest joining me all the way from Houston, Texas. I met him last year when he was 15 and really struggling to get his agency off the ground, but through persistence, he has made headways and is currently at $10,000 a month at the age of 16 and still going to school. His name is Benjamin Hoang, and he is the founder of Bolt. Oh, I'm going to get this wrong now. Bolt Deals. Benjamin, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Abul. I'm really excited to be here, man.
Thank you so much for joining me, because I know it's quite early where you're at. And for the people who might not know who you are, how about a little bit of an introduction?
Absolutely. So again, my name is Benjamin. I'm the founder of Bolt Deals. I started my agency during, I believe it was July of 2020 when the Corona pandemic began. I started out, cold calling 3 to 4 hours a day in my dad's closet, where I ran into a few Facebook groups, and then Abul happened to be the owner of one of them. So I was really struggling for a few weeks, and then I reached out to Abul to help me out a bit. He gave me a lot of insights actually on how this marketing world works, how prospects will treat you, and with consistent action, cold calling 3 to 4 hours every single day during the summer, and then cold calling about 2 hours after school every single day. I believe it was after 3 months, I got my first client, which was a mobile mechanic in the same city as me, paying me $300 a month. And it was even through Stripe. It was through a payment thing called Zelle. People in America are pretty familiar with that. And then I believe it was 3 months later in November, I signed my second client, which was a Honda salesman. And from there, it blew up. I signed a painter in the Houston area as well for another 300. And then a few days after that, I signed another Honda salesman at another dealership for my highest retainer at the time, which was $350 per month. Unfortunately, I lost all those clients a month later simply because I had no idea how to deliver. So in January, I started back up again. I tested out cold messaging, and I booked an appointment within 10 minutes with a tech repair shop, which we're still working with to this day. It's one of my highest retention rates. He's extremely happy. We're pretty much friends now. He was paying $350 per month, and then he actually asked to raise his retainer by, I think it was like $80 or something. So it's $430 per month now. And then I've been just riding with him. And then after that, I had my next client in, I believe it was February. He was a mobile locksmith, and this guy was a living hell. And it was at this moment that he was one of the first persons that asked to refund my money. And I actually reached out to Abul about this because I had no idea what to do. My day at school was ruined. I couldn't stop thinking about it because, I thought my agency was over. I was going to crash and everything. So I reached out to Abul, and this is where I learned about contracts and why you should have one in place, as well as setting client expectations. So I left that client. He was probably one of the worst clients I've ever had, but I've learned the most from having him. And then from there, I was just riding with that one client for the next 2-3 months. And it was in June, I believe, I signed up to a coaching program. He promised me the world. He told me he was going to sell me his real estate agency, gave me all the snapshots, all the ads. And then when we went up and launched the ads for our first client, the ads didn't work because those were for UK ads. He told me he was in he was in London Turns out he was actually in some other European country I don't want to mention. So I mean, Abul knows the entire story, and fortunately, I ran into another friend of mine who happens to be the same age as me. He's actually doing 20K per month with his agency right now. We're in the same niche and everything. He's the one that I owe to for helping me scale all the way to 10K per month. And one of the biggest things I learned from him was it's all sales. Once you can nail down sales and tonality, and you can make the prospect feel comfortable and trust you. Selling is really easy after that. I mean, there are people out there that say don't sell with the script, and then say do sell with the script. But at the end of the day, you really got to find out what works best for you, because what works good for me may not work for you in your industry. What else? And
you've
you know,
I mean, you've gone with the whole introduction and your story, which is amazing, and I know the journey you've been on, because obviously we've kept in touch for a while now.
absolutely.
And it's been absolutely fascinating to kind of watch you grow, because I do remember having a conversation
Exactly.
with you that I'd love to get you on an interview for our podcast when you hit 10K a month, and it's absolutely amazing, and I'm delighted to see you cross this threshold. Now, I remember when you started off about a year ago or something like that. You were doing a lot of cold calling. Now, this is something
Yes,
that
it
obviously
was.
I hate doing, and a lot of people I know hate doing, and I don't really teach it to most people anyway. But you were quite keen on doing cold calling, and that showed to me you were more brave than many people double your age who just don't
Absolutely.
want to pick up the phone. And you were getting meetings, which is great, and
Yes.
you might hear an ambulance behind me, but I think it's
Yes, I
past.
did.
So yeah, that's the benefit of living very close to an hospital, right? I mean, if I have any issues, it's
It's
just
right there.
there, right? So you're doing cold calling, you're landing meetings, and I remember you signing up nightmare clients, and where we were having quite a few different conversations about setting the expectations, contracts, and how you deal with people who want their money back and whatnot. And this is a learning experience, and I love it that you are being so real with people here, that you are talking about your actual journey, not something that you buy a course for $500 to $1,000, and it makes you think your journey is like this, right? Rather than
Yes.
a set of
Yes,
squiggly
absolutely.
lines,
It's a
But
roller
you've been
coaster.
resilient. You've been resilient, and that's credit to you. You've come back, you've sought help, you've paid for mentorship, you've kind of, networked with other people your age, and you've had someone who's obviously kind of helped you kind of get on by jumping on some of these sales schools, and then kind of also like showing you how to do sales. So over the last 12 months, what would you say has been the biggest thing that has shifted the needle for you in your business?
It was probably number one, networking, and number two, joining a coaching program. But the thing is, the coaching program was more of an accountability thing rather than like, okay, you got to do the work. If you don't do the work, you're never going to succeed, and a bunch of like motivational talk. As well as you got to be invested, because what I've noticed from the bigger players is you look at their revenue levels, some of them are at 100K per month, some others are at 40, 50K per month. But what I've noticed is that the reason they're there is because they've invested that much into their own success. So for example, if you invest 10K into your own into your own business, you're going to end up making 10K per month. I don't know how it works. It's just what I've noticed to be the laws of the universe. And another thing is you got to be extremely consistent, because there's days that you wake up and you do not want to do cold calling or prospecting whatsoever. I remember coming home from school every single day, and I see everyone leave and like, oh, their day's over. And in my head, I'm like, oh man, my day's just getting started as the moment I'm leaving school. So I come home, hop on a few sales calls. At this time, I was still doing like phone call sales. Absolutely hated it. They just hang up on you and leave. So that's why I found Zoom to be a bit better. What else? But it's really just networking, investing in your own growth, and consistency are the
Yeah.
biggest three things.
I agree. No, I absolutely agree. And investing is such an important thing. I think a lot of people have the wrong mindset. I think that is where it really comes from. You kind of look at people who became successful after Second World War, when they had to start a business from the ground. They'd put in 50, 60, 100, $200,000 into a physical location, opening a restaurant or something like that before they served their first customer. So the mindset they had was very different from a lot of people who would maybe spend $200 on a course and then want to get to $10,000 the next month without investing anything more after
Exactly.
that.
It's crazy.
And that's not how it works. You need to be able to, you can either invest your time or you can invest your money. The bottom
Exactly.
line is, if you don't have a lot of time, you've got another
Invest your
job,
money.
you've got another business, you need to invest the money. And if you're not willing to invest the money and you try to invest the time when you're already stretched, that is when you burn out, and that is when you give up.
Exactly.
And that's probably the biggest mindset. As you say, mindset is such a huge thing. Even with the people that I work with on a one-on-one basis, right? The tactics, the strategies, they're nothing radically new. They're not radically different from what they might have heard of before. Now, obviously, I have my way of bringing the strategies and tactics together, but it's nothing that I've invented, okay? Where I actually deliver the value and I feel like I do most of my work is kind of being that mindset coach, really working on people's limiting beliefs, breaking them down when they're down, holding them accountable and getting them back up again. Get back on that bike. You've fallen over. Nobody learns to ride a bike on day one, right? You're going to fall over again. You're going to get some cuts and you're going to get some bruises. But then when you start riding, you're going to fly. And this is the same with starting any businesses, or even the agency model. You've fallen off your bike so many times. You've had the cuts and the bruises. You've had the sleepless nights, right?
Yes,
and you've had so much anxiety. I know we've had a couple of calls around this, but you kept on going, and this is amazing to see the amount of resilience you've had as a 16-year-old, or 15 at the time. It's amazing, So tell us, share it with us. What keeps you going? What makes you not stop?
Yeah, that's a great thing. The first one is, I probably shouldn't say this with my dad over there, but I do not want to go to college whatsoever, like at all. The second one is, I can't see myself working for anybody ever, because I like to be the manager or team leader in a way. Obviously right now as a 16-year-old, I don't need too much money. That's why Abul keeps preaching to reinvest. If you see it right here, these are three things I need to invest. It's another coaching program, paid ads, and some stuff for my setup. But for me, I'm not in a rush for money. So once the money comes in, it goes right back out. I just make sure the business is cash flow positive. So that way, once I start losing money, that's, where I got to slow it down. But yeah.
Okay, no,
things that keep me up. It's really just, I invest so much. It's unreasonable to quit. Like, you invest like 8-10K, you just want to quit. Like, it's not. If you invest 200 and you want to quit, I mean, go ahead. But if you've invested like multiple 4 or 5 figures into this just to quit, it doesn't make any sense.
Well, you'd be surprised that, obviously, I suppose, kind of, it's relative to where you are at in your own position, where, you've invested thousands of dollars, and that's a lot of money.
Yes,
I know people sitting on tens of thousands of dollars in their bank account, and then they'll invest 5K and disappear. I kid you not. I've heard of all of these stories, even from my friends' network, of people investing up to $100,000 to work with them one-on-one, and then not showing up to a single coaching call. It's absolutely bizarre, so that, I suppose, is relative. If $5,000 is just kind of, a week's salary, 2 weeks salary for you, you just write it off very easily, right?
Exactly.
Whereas, if that's all the money you have, you really go behind it and go all in. Now, kind of what I often hear from people, and even within the Facebook group, is, how do I get my clients? How do I get my first client? what advice would you give someone who is still struggling to get their first client? Because often it doesn't really make sense to me, because I think, if you do the basic work, a client, you will acquire a client. It's not rocket
Yes.
science, right? You
Yes.
just need to show up consistently. What advice can you give someone from your experience, being someone who came into the game totally new, no pre-existing knowledge? I mean, to the point where you don't even deliver ads yourself because you've got a partner helping you on that side. How do you pick up your first client where you have no experience, you have no credibility in your niche?
Absolutely. So I just want to tell to all the people in the Facebook group, you will acquire your first client. The thing is, it's just a matter of time. So because there's a few ways you can do with that. If you want to speed up your success and acquire your first and next client faster, you can go join a coaching program, maybe Abul's, maybe someone else's. Just join someone that's credible and knows what they're doing, and
Someone
don't
who
make the
doesn't
same mistake as me.
No, I appreciate the shout out, but someone who's starting up and they're not quite ready to invest in a coach, because a lot of people, they try this out because they want to dabble, but they're not serious about building an agency, right? What can they do with very little money? Let's make it basic for anybody who's even got $20 to their name or whatever. How can
Yeah,
they
like
go
I
off
did.
and get their first client?
Definitely, since you don't have money, like we mentioned before, you got to invest your time. And just because you invest your time, you have to do it consistently. You can't do maybe 10 hours of cold calling or whatever you do for your outreach today, and then tomorrow you do 2 hours, and the next day you don't do any. You have to be extremely consistent with it, and you got to be willing to sacrifice your weekends for it. So what I did was, weekdays was for outreach, sales calls, whatever, and weekends were Saturdays were a bit of outreach and mainly learning, and Sundays is just completely learning new strategies, new methods, etc. So the biggest one is put in your time and be consistent with it, since you don't have the money at that point.
Mm-hmm. No, that totally makes sense. It's about doing something consistently. It's I've seen so many people who take advice and then they don't apply it, because
Exactly,
people
because
think
they're
this
not
is
invested.
yeah, they think the problem is people watch YouTube videos and ads on
Yes.
Facebook, and they think,
Yes.
I'll get started today, and 2 months down the line, I'll have a thriving business, I'll have a team, the Lamborghini is going to be on order.
In the garage.
Right, in the garage, exactly, right. They don't realize that, like with any business, you need to put in the effort, and unfortunately, most people are not built to be entrepreneurs. It's only a small percentage. And I think a lot of people realize by kind of starting their agency that they're not built to be an entrepreneur, that they would rather have the structure and the security of a job where they are guaranteed a paycheck. Whereas as an entrepreneur, you might not make any money today. You might not make any money this week, but you keep on going because you know that there is light at the end of the tunnel. Now, you've been kind of doing obviously a lot of messaging on Facebook and LinkedIn, I believe, as well. A lot of people talk about script, and I generally hate script because I feel that to become great at sales, you need to find your own authentic, your own unique voice, and then be able to obviously kind of change it from situation to situation, because people are buying you before they buy your service. So if you're going to be fake from the beginning, at one point the mask is going to fall off. How are you engaging with prospects through social media?
Yeah, that's a great thing. In a way, I agree with the thing where you shouldn't use scripts. For sales calls, again, you gotta see what works and what doesn't. But you definitely need a starting point, and instead of scripts, you should use frameworks. My primary outreach method, like I said, is on mainly Facebook and LinkedIn. What I do is I add about 25 to 30 people every single day, twice a day, So I basically just add before I get action blocked. And then I obviously wait for them to accept my request, wait about 24 hours. The next day, I will go to my Facebook. If you go on your PC or your computer, you go to Facebook and then you click your profile and you go to friends. Go to recently added, and then that's where it has everyone that you recently added, and just start DMing them from there. And you start off with something. Some mistake I started out with was I would just say, "Hey, business," and then I would just straight up pitch right there. And that was, they get bombarded with people all the time, and they're obviously 99.9% of the time they're going to ignore you, as bad as it sounds. But what I do is you spark some interest. So if they are a home services business, say something like, "Hey, name," or if you know the business owner, say their name and say, you guys cover around what area are they cover in. And then from there, you just constantly engage them, pique their interest. And then when you come to pitch, don't pitch the service, pitch a call. Does that make sense? So instead of pitching, "Oh, I do Facebook ads," or whatever, one thing I learned from Abul is that the prospects do not care if you're doing Facebook ads. What they care about is results. If you can get them results, that's all that matters. And the service or Facebook ads is really just the gap, or I mean the bridge, to bring you from where they are right now to their desired outcome. And just do that over and over again. And what you're gonna find most of the time is you gotta if you for your messaging frameworks, what you should do is you should also add some qualifying questions in there. Ask them something like, "How many jobs are you guys doing on average?" to get a gauge of if they can potentially afford your services or not. If they can't, don't just ghost them and block them. Add them to your network and continue to build a relationship with them. So first off, it builds your brand. At the same time, positions you as an authority. And then whenever they come back later on and they have the money to work with you, they're going to work with you. And I've learned this because I had a prospect reach out to me a few months ago, and we've been, making small talk. He's in an extremely difficult situation back then. And then he reached out to me earlier this month and actually got him on he's a client of mine now, basically. So just because they can't afford your services now, start to build a relationship with them and nurture them in a way with your content, if you're putting out any content on your profile. And that way you have future clients if you're ever in a drought for client acquisition.
I just love what you shared there. Honestly, right? I mean, a lot of people who are going to be watching this will probably kind of make sense to them based on what I keep on telling them. But honestly, right? You've got wisdom beyond your years. I'll tell you that.
Absolutely.
And like someone might hear this and they might think this is amazing. But one thing to realize is that you are still on your journey. You still obviously have your struggles, and then you have your challenges as well. But you're overcoming them because of you being fully invested in this, because you taking the time to actually know that this, you're sowing your seeds. They're not going to sprout and give you fruit, in a week or 2 weeks. Sometimes it's taken you months to sign someone up, but you kept on going, and I kind of totally love that. You're setting the right expectations for people. Now, what would you say has been, I suppose, the biggest mistake that you made that people could learn from?
Absolutely. So this is actually something that I actually wrote down in our chat so I wouldn't forget. One of the biggest mistakes I made was, just like everyone else, you hop into this business model, or any business model. For me, it was drop shipping first, like everyone out there. It's instant gratification and wanting the money so bad. What I've noticed with a lot of beginners, everyone that's like, "Oh, how do I sign my first client?" Da da da. They just want instant gratification right away and feel that money, which, if you ask me, is an amazing feeling. I still remember the first time my client paid me. But over time, as you realize, over time, it's less about the instant gratification of money, and the best thing you can get or wake up to is seeing your clients close deals and make money and send you testimonials. Once that happens, everything changes for you. Um, if you really want to build a sustainable, reputable business and being here for the long term rather than just, some instant quick cash, um, it's all about the clients and their experience with you. Once you nail down service delivery and can provide an amazing service to your client and they're extremely happy with it, you're going to be extremely happy. You're going to go to sleep knowing that the ads are doing well, your clients are closing deals. Yes, you're getting paid, but you getting paid should be the last thing to worry about. The first thing that should be worried about on the top of your mind is your clients and your service to your clients. I hear from a lot of people, like, again, if you really want to build a sustainable business, care about the clients, if you're in this for quick cash, for quick few grand, honestly, you're going to get wiped out. Yeah, you may make your few thousand and you're going to leave, but just know that once you make your few thousand, it's either now or never, that you're going to worry about the client results, because you're going to end up building a good relationship with a client to the point where you do not want them to leave and you're willing to do everything in your power to retain them. And pretty much because there's such an amazing person that you don't want them to leave. And then from there, that's where you start worrying about client results. But your biggest takeaway from what I just said was just worry about the client results and your part will come later. And you can do that by investing into coaching programs to learn service delivery. You can pay better media buyers. And when it comes to fulfillment and you're paying someone, do not go cheap with it just so you can increase your margins. Because what you're going to realize is that you may be at a lower profit margin and you may not be making as much money. But the thing is, as long as you're not losing money, you're okay. And once your clients get amazing results, you're going to be happy that you went the more expensive and better route, rather than going to Fiverr and paying some dude $20 to do it and just gets the ad account banned. So yeah,
No,
it's one of the biggest
absolutely.
mistakes.
No, absolutely love that. Absolutely love that. And I think I mentioned, obviously, you're not running the ads yourself. You have a
I'm not.
agency that is doing the fulfillment for you. And obviously,
Correct.
that's a great model because you can focus on the sales, you can focus on building the relationships with people. And then you've got a proven partner who can then deliver the services and then kind of help you to essentially not worry too much about the delivery side of things. So I think, to wrap up here, it's been fascinating to hear your story, Benjamin, and I really appreciate you being
Absolutely.
frank and honest with people. Going to 10K, you have invested your time. Now going above 10K and scaling, you've got the money.
Invest
It's
your
time
money.
to invest the money.
Yeah, just throw everything out there. It's going to come back to you
Absolutely.
quicker than you know it.
Absolutely. You stop working in the business and you start working on the business, because with money that you have now made, it opens up so many doors for you to outsource, bring on team members, and to truly become the CEO. Benjamin, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on. We need to do this again once you hit the 20K
Yes.
mark and pick
It's
your
very
brain again
soon.
for those lessons. But, thank you so much for joining us. And, those of you guys who are watching who are inspired by this, is it okay for them to reach out to you, Benjamin?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Feel free to
Okay,
reach out to me,
awesome.
ask as many questions as you want, because the thing is, I've gone through stuff that, involves lawsuits and client refunds. I mean, you name it. I've been through almost a good amount of it. I wouldn't say all of it because I'm only at the 10K mark. But if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. But just know that if you're asking me how to get your first client, I'm going to ask you how much time or how much money you put in. And then from that answer, it's going to depend. It's going to let me know how invested you are and how much I want to help you. If you're trying to get your first client, you only been doing prospecting for a week, I'm going to tell you to, go back and do it for 3 months. And then if you don't have your first client by 3 months, then I can help you out because you're doing something really wrong.
I love that answer. I love that answer, honestly. On that note, Benjamin Hoang, thank you so much for your time.
Absolutely. I'm very glad and I'm super excited to rewatch this on your Facebook group.